Minions, you remember those minions I told you that operate within the dark walls? Yeah, they decided to come out to play last night. So let's see if that will yield any kind of results. But you know what? As they say, even if the lead actor is not in the drama, the show must go
on.
Thank you very much, please. These conversations, we will continue to have them. We will talk about these things. The fact that we often forget that one of the things that we can do is bring things to the fore in the conversations that we have is interesting at best. We said that we are not going to relent, or we're not going to forget about certain things. And as a segue, as this will come and go to a segue in a conversation that we'll have, there's a story, and we highlighted it this morning on page 5 of the Standard. The Otieno family is asking that there should be a release of the Muthaiga CCTV clips. And this now forms the basis for the conversation that we're having this hour. The family of the slain Eric Otino and human rights activists were yesterday morning mounting pressure on the National Police Service to release CCTV footage from Muthaiga Police Station. Otieno, 19, died under unclear circumstances after being detained at the station following his arrest on Thika Road. Speaking on behalf of the family, lawyer Alvin Atalo said investigators must urgently secure the CCTV footage, OB extracts and hospital records before they are tampered with or lost. We're already on, since he died, day 3. Okay. And since he was released from hospital, day 4. Released from the police station, day 4. A lot can happen in 96 hours. And this is why Atalo was insistent yesterday and said, release them and release them now. It's interesting that as long as Eric Otino, may God rest his soul in peace, has been dead, it is also this long that IPOA has been dead silent about this particular thing. That somebody went under such turmoil allegedly in the hands of police, or while in police custody, and that the oversight authority of the police, it's not oversight authority of market sellers, it's not the oversight authority of construction workers, it's not the oversight authority of Juakali skilled workers. It is the oversight authority of the police, and that something happened under the duty of care of the police, and that you, as the authority, on day 4, have said nothing. Even a church mouse is louder. That is a cause for worry and concern. The CCTV clips will essentially be able to tell you a lot of information, akin to what we see in the current case of Albert Ojwang, that the CCTV footage is speaking in manners that people in court don't have to. Now, you can imagine why the family is insisting, give us the CCTV footage, because many things can happen. You can lose it, you can erase it, you can alter it, you can just decide that you can do whatever it is that you want with it. So before that has an opportunity to happen, release it. So why wouldn't they be doing that until now?
And the insistence of the CCTV is because one Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Kipchumba Murkomen, confirmed to Kenyans that each and every police station has a working CCTV camera, right? And with that, then, these will help to piece up this case in showing exactly how this gentleman entered, how he left, because then that goes to further inform how he was treated and ask the question, what happened when he was under police custody, that when he was leaving, either he was struggling to walk, he was on a stretcher and was going to hospital. What exactly happened while in custody of the police?
Do IPOA think that they're actually there to protect the police? The closest thing I can think of comparison for IPOA is internal affairs with other police departments in different parts of the world. That what their job is to do is that internal, that the things that are happening within the police, then somebody has an eye on them and say, excuse me, excesses, you can't do this, you can't do that. Or, if there's misbehavior or, criminality within the service or within the force or within the department, then they're the ones to call it out. At the very least, IPOA should have been able to say, okay, there is conduct akin to perhaps unsatisfactory, or that there are questions, and the answers to these questions may be in this CCTV footage. Why wouldn't you, the moment, because the rest of the country understands what happened so far, there was a press conference, there were people who were mourning outside of a hospital, there were people who went to a police station and asked questions, there was an older sister of this young man who cried herself hoarse and was basically talking about, even if you don't know what happened in the police station, the very fact that a police officer told this woman that, can you clean up this mess and get this guy out of there, that alone should have warranted IPOA to say, hello, hey, we're here. Can you tell us what happened? That it is met with resounding, thunderous, in this case, silence, is something that we ought to be worried about. And I'm going to say it again. I said it day before yesterday. I said it yesterday. I'm going to say it again. If you continue to condone such behavior and refuse to be part of what will fix the system, prepare for future cases of anguish to this measure, if not more. It will continue to happen. There are people who sit. Remember what Danvers said the last hour? He said that just people saying that these four entities have come together to agree that if there is a case of Dennis having done 1, 2, 3, and it has been agreed by all these parties that we're going to fast track this thing, and that we're within a month, guilty, you go to jail, right? What did he say happened? That in 2022, except for one, we didn't see cases of this nonsense.
Yes.
So the same thing here. There are people who are sitting around saying that I can beat the hell out of you.
No, I can beat the life out of you.
Exactly, literally. And nobody's going to do anything to me. Now, if you don't set a deterrent, it is going to continue happening. So you see that anger that you're feeling? Those tears that you're crying? That anguish that is wrenching your soul? Prepare for more. Let me be the one who is going to be that forecast where it says that if you're not engaged in conversation, if you're not engaged in conversation onto action, if you're not activating your constitutionally given right to insist on certain things in terms of how things should run, be ready.
And people should not mistake this to just be any other case, no. It has to get to a point where enough is enough. And enough is enough is not because a life has gone today. Enough is enough ought to be other cases that were reported within the police station. That it continues to happen in 2026, despite the entire country going to the streets to complain about what happened to Albert Ojwang, what happened to Boniface, and many other cases. It is a time when we must put our feet down and say, never again. Because like we asked Ndu, there's that saying where they came for my neighbor, I was quiet. You know, they came for my brother, I was quiet. They've come for me and there's no one else to talk or to raise this issue on my behalf. The reason why we are so tough on IPOA is because these are individuals who are out there to make sure that police excesses become a thing of the past. There's a reason why the internal affairs unit of the police is not trusted, that the framers of the constitution saw it fit to have IPOA, who would then come in there to protect Mwananchi.
Okay, so if IPOA doesn't want anybody to talk, who do you want to talk?
Exactly.
Who do you expect is supposed to raise these issues? Who is supposed to say, for example, release those CCTV clips so that we can see exactly what happened to this young man? Because what you're doing, you know what you're doing? You're diluting the potency of hope. You're diluting the potency that these three siblings who want to know what happened to their brother are not going to be able to get it because you're quiet. That's what you're doing. You're taking what's left. There's very little left and you're taking it away. Because what other business, apart from the oversight of the police, would IPOA be involving itself in the last 3 days? Today's Thursday. Today's day 4. I knew that by Tuesday afternoon, we would see somebody behind a microphone saying something. But that has not happened yet. So, in your angst, those are the things that we'll be thinking about today, but I'm going to repeat that you should be ready for more to happen. But perhaps Odhiambo Otieno will tell us today that perhaps there is hope, and we'll see and understand what should actually happen in terms of communication in some of these things. Yeah. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you?
Amazing as usual. Yourself?
I want to say amazing as usual, maybe, but I don't want to steal your line. So allow me to think about my own, and then I'll let you know. But I'm well, thanks.
You're looking good, very good.
Thank you so much.
The compliment is welcome.
It's Asante sana.
We need it. We really need it.
We need it.
Yeah.
Asante is also looking very fine.
Asante.
Yeah.
See? Very good. Very
fine. It's very good.
You should have just added thank you.
Asante.
Looking fine, thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're getting into these conversations this morning, but you know what we'll do? We'll still go to today's proverb because I would love to get your interpretation.
Yeah. Today we're in Mali. The proverb: you will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. How would you interpret it?
You will waste a lot of time reacting to every criticism, but they're there, and there's so many. Yeah.
You'll waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
Responding to criticism that will be there anyway.
And you know, most of the time, people who criticize don't really know what's going on because they're not inside, they're outside. Yeah. So we always say mistakes made in audacity can be corrected in further audacity.
Here's my pen to write these things down. My goodness.
Mistakes made in audacity can be
corrected in further
audacity.
Yeah.
So what happens to the audacity that we're asking here?
Yeah.
Because let's say that you made a mistake. Okay, let's even assume that what happened to Eric Otino over the weekend. Because, you know, according to what we can or cannot do standardization, we have to say allegedly, because we do not know unequivocally. We do not know what happened. We do know that he left the way he did not come. He walked into a police station. That we know because they arrested him and they held him. We don't know how he left because we can't see that. But we know that he's dead. And the body tells a story, that's what a post-mortem does. And the only way that he could have had such injury and lived through it, or rather, the only way that he would have such injury is if somebody instilled that injury on him. So we don't know what happened in there. But is it not because we don't know that a body like IPOA should then stand up and tell us, hello, let's require certain things so that we then can know? But the silence that we're met with is a bit worrying, because then what does it mean for anybody, and I can say anybody, who is in police custody today? How can we be sure that they'll come out of it alive?
I can't begin to imagine the pain that the family and friends of Eric can be going through right now. It's absolutely painful, and I have to say my condolences to the family and to the friends of Eric. It's a shameful thing that in this day and age we are having suspects who are in custody of the police die within the police cells. Before even talk about IPOA, we want to look at the government straight in the eye and ask very important questions. And I want to go back to Murkomen's policy pronouncement when Albert Ojwang died in the police cell. On the staircase of Arambe House, Murkomen, flanked with so many police generals and the ministry, high-ranking officials, pronounced that every police station must now proceed and install CCTVs.
Yes.
And he gave the direction, the police direction, on how that was to be implemented. Today we are on the 6th of August. This has not been implemented. So the first person that we have to look at before even we look at IPOA is Murkomen, because he's failing the government. And I've always said, I think Murkomen is a lethargic fellow sitting in that office. He doesn't have any understanding of what security looks like. And I've said before, and with a lot of respect, some lawyers are very poor managers. There are some who are very good, but quite a number of lawyers are very poor managers. And Murkomen is showing us exactly why he should not be in that office. Because when such an incident happens, and you made a policy pronouncement some months back, what should have happened by now? Its heads should have rolled. thoroughly. Head should have rolled. Because as these people bury Eric, we are not going to wait by the sidelines and wait for Murkomen to again fail the government and fail the people. This is wrong. Number two, when you look at IPOA in its structure and format, IPOA cannot do anything meaningful in this country.
What does that mean?
IPOA is a witness in court processes. Because from which moral ground is IPOA talking? IPOA does not have an understanding, especially the officers who are appointed to IPOA. And I don't know whether there's a new director there. It's called Duncan, must be, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
We sat with him sometimes.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Dr. Duncan Ojwang is now the chair of IPOA.
Yes. I do expect by now that he should have made some pronouncements, serious pronouncements with regards to this, even just an apology out of common sense. There's nothing coming through in terms of apology. There's nothing coming through in terms of even visiting these people. There's nothing coming through in terms of getting even these rogue policemen. But the worst thing, the most painful thing in this country, when I watched Albert Ojwang's case in court, Dennis, I saw CCTV which we may have never seen of people who are not uniformed police officers getting into the police precincts and hammering somebody the way they hammered Albert Ojwang to death. And the police are coordinating and cooperating with them.
And cleaned it up.
And cleaned it up. It is sad to say. I don't know which kind of country we are living in. And perhaps it's the reason why so many people are angry. Because such things should never happen in a country where people have common sense. And in a country where police who claim to be trained properly should be able to know that the basic thing that they need to do is to protect the lives of the citizens, are ending up with dead bodies. It is sad. One time I talked to Charles Owino, the current government spokesperson, and when I talked to him, I did ask him, Charlie is my friend.
Okay.
That's why I call him Charlie. I asked him, Charlie, what is the biggest scare of any police officer? Because you've been a police officer and a police trainer for a long time. And Charlie told me, a suspect dying in custody of a police officer is one of the greatest and most grim, if there's English like that, situation of any police officer. Because it earns you a place in court and you will go home.
They know this.
They know
this, but they are allowing situations whereby because this is not to insult. This is not to go into look at the structure of Eric Otino. His pictures are all over the place. He is not wide-girthed. He is not a big man. Like he's a small man. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out that if you hit this man over and over in a certain way, you will injure him. I mean, the same could apply for somebody who was bigger bone structure. It would happen to somebody else. But if you tell me that because usually we are guided by our fears as human beings. So how do you tell me that your greatest fear as a police officer is that somebody dies in custody? Because that's the conversation that we're having today. That somebody dies in custody at your hand. But then you go ahead to behave in a manner that would counter that fear. How do we reconcile that?
Do we have police officers who are dangerously rogue and who can be overtaken by anger and professionalism is set aside? We do. And these police officers are too many, unfortunately. The worst thing that happens is that most police officers go to Kiganjo for a short-term training, and after that there's no refresher course. There's no refresher course. Somebody who was trained in 2001 is still operating under the same training that was given in 2001 today. The only other thing they're getting is threats from the ministry, threats from their bosses. But are they retrained? They are not retrained. There are elements within the police ranks who are participating in very heinous things. And it has been like that for a long time. And perhaps what we needed to have looked at is, one, the hiring quality of police officers. What kind of people are we hiring to be police officers?
Well, you're hiring the people who probably, in some cases, pay. Remember that this was almost a scandal in the last recruitment for Kiganjo, that people were paying for their people to be hired as police officers.
And I often say that things don't go wrong. Things start wrong. Things don't go wrong, they start wrong. Because if you hired somebody because they had 200,000 shillings and they gave a bribe, obviously, this person is going to seek to make this money because the system is already rotten from the onset. Well, as the government tried to say, we will ensure there's no corruption, they say that. But does it happen? It happens all the time. The corruption still continues. So, do we have a chance where some rogue elements from the community enter the police service? In fact, do. I don't know how long you've lived in this country, but I can tell you that in most of these households, some of the toughest or most indisciplined children are sent to the police to go and be policemen. It's the culture. Dennis, I believe you know this. You say, there is no other option. And I'm not saying all police are like this. We have, very good policemen. We have PhD holders there.
We do.
We have Christians. We have bishops inside the police. But quite a rank of these policemen are rejects of the community. Who the community says, this one ameanguka, mpeleke huko. So can we review first the way we are hiring our policemen? Can we review second, what is the dignity around these policemen? But most importantly, what is the deterrent around policemen who are rogue like this one? It should be some quick action. By the time the burial is being done, in my view, this person should have been interdicted. I don't know if they've been arrested. I don't know what's happening.
No, we don't. There's nothing that has happened.
Nobody's talking to us. There's a communication failure from this guy called Munyiri or who? Mushiri. This guy who writes police statements all the time. I don't know what he communicates about.
But you see, when you look at what you continue to see and why I'm saying continue is because this is not the first time we're doing such kind of reports. Ojwang is there. We have Njoki is there. Kianjokoma brothers are there. Now we have Brian Odhiambo as well, and many other Kenyans who've died in police custody. Whilst there is the cardinal rule where police fear anyone dying in their custody will take you home, there is equally a feeling that mtadu you get, because you're also being told there is order from above. And one asks the question then, what happens in someone's psyche that even the greatest fear they have is something that they just don't care about? That they no longer look at their purpose as serving Mwananchi, but to mistreat Mwananchi to the best rank there is.
You know what rings in my mind? A few years ago, about 3, I visited one of the private mental facilities in this country, which has one of the biggest agreements with the government in terms of taking care of police mental health. And we were discussing with the CEO there, is my friend. And in our discussion, he did tell me that the police are constantly traumatized. They're traumatized from a lot of things that happen to them. Especially the work environment of the police is not good. Those who enjoy the work environment are the ones at the higher rank. These ones, the corporals, the constables, maybe sergeants from Sergeant Nefadali, but ata hapo bado. Because most of them aren't allowed independence of thought. Let's just pull back a little bit and analyze this thing in the context that it deserves. If you look at the Kenjokoma brothers, for example, you come to Albert Ojwang. In fact, the Albert Ojwang case is the most evident one. You realize that somebody gave an order. And there is this silly saying in the police ranks that amri ni kubwa kuliko aliyeitoa. Amri ni kubwa kuliko aliyeitoa.
An order is greater than
the person who gave
the order.
Okay.
So you have to comply to the order. And remember, in his talk in court, in the papers in court, that OCS, former OCS of Central, and the other guy, the other police is called who? There's the other one who was sent, Mukwana. He says that there was an order that was given by some big man. And this big man just wanted this guy to be disciplined a little bit. and
so they said injure him, but don't kill him, is what they said.
Yeah. And I think I've told you here sometimes before that people never know how far to go with sin. You invite an outsider and he comes in and bludgeons somebody like they bludgeoned Albert Ojwang. It shows you that there is that informal thing in the police which now we have to talk to the police about. The police who are listening or watching, now they must listen to this. That amri haiwezi kuwa kubwa kuliko aliyeitoa. Because at the end of the day, it is you in the dock. You are now seeing these big men abandoning you right when you go to the courts. The court system is very different from your police system. And that is one thing that every policeman must now appreciate. If you're being sent by your senior who is giving you an illegal order, you are allowed to reject that order.
There was something has been said that the police, in one way or the other, do what they do because of their living condition, poor working condition. And I'd say that is utter nonsense. You know why? Because many other Kenyans in this country still go through similar or the same kind of treatment. Cost of living is high, corruption iko juu, insecurity is there, but no Kenyan is wielding machete out here or rungu trying to attack another person. They deal with their issues with the hope that things will get better in the future. Have we allowed that line and given the police the right to do what it is they want? Because, your living conditions are worse now, you can do whatever it is you want.
In fact, Dennis, the living condition is just one of the contributors. The most painful thing for a police officer, I just want to be in their shoe for a minute and be the devil's advocate for a minute. That you're having somebody who is your boss, who denies you autonomy of thinking and tells you that wewe uko chini yangu, you have to do what I want. If you don't do it, you're going to lose your job. What happens? You think, nenda kupoteza kazi sababu ya order too. Then let me implement the order. I have heard of cases where traffic police officers are sent to the road to go and pick money, and in the evening it is accounted to the bosses. What I'm talking about here is that as much as we would want to say, the living condition is not a contributor, but let us look at the autonomy of thought. You are not allowed to think for yourself. You're not allowed to be human.
But in the moment where you're bludgeoning somebody to death, it's you in that room.
It is, and that's what we are saying. It is you in that room. And that's what the police now have to come to accept. That, look, you are not born to be a police officer. If an order is wrong, if an order looks bad as it is looking, if you feel so offended that this person did so bad to you, then you are allowed, one, to resign. Resign. In fact, any of us who have ever resigned from jobs before, we know that resignations are always blessings. Resign. God is telling you, resign, go to something else. Stop sticking where you're being abused. Move on to something else.
Let's see how easy that will be, or let's not further this conversation, because then there are those who operate in that space, and then there are those that are there to oversight them. We're going to have to come to IPOA at some point, and the people who speak on behalf of the police, looking at a number of things, because you know what? With folks who've died in police custody, we can start with the Kianjokoma brothers, this conversation, because they died in a vehicle. By the time they were brought out of the vehicle, they were dead. What happened inside that vehicle? Where were they taken? What was happening? Because there's a reason why a post-mortem was involved or included in cases where you're trying to find out what happened, especially when now it comes to the judicial process. Because the body will tell a story, and that they were able to tell. And that's why six officers who were in the vicinity of this area, 5 men and a woman, are on trial today, because the question about what happened to these boys, they didn't need, it's unequivocal that they didn't need to do that. If these boys were loitering around during COVID times or whatever the case was, okay, and you know that it has already been set out there that we are not allowing this to happen. What happens? We're trying to understand in a communication sphere, what happens between, if they have broken the law, take them, hold them for the required time, again, dictated by law, and then present them before a court of law. What happens where there is this feeling where you imagine that you need to instill or to mete out violence on them, to cause harm, as opposed to just following the law? Because that's exactly what we're talking about here. You break the law as opposed to following it. What is there a breakdown?
Yeah.
Is there not an understanding of what needs to go on? And I'm just going to go a little bit further to that, if you'll allow me, Odhiambo, because people are saying, well, it's not all police. I say again, it's not. It is those ones who were in the vehicle. It is those ones who are in Central Police where they beat Albert Ojwang to death. It is those ones, the 5 officers that we're talking about at Muthaiga. It is those ones. And we will not have any mercy when it comes to saying that. It is those ones. So what happens between... And if anybody should understand what the law says, it's them. What happens between that and then the conscious decision? Because in that minute, there's no order. When you're in the room beating this man, there's no order. There's no one else. It's you. So what happens in that breakdown? And how can you actually start to deal with that? Do you set deterrent? What do you do?
Good. So there are parallels here in terms of operation which we must observe. One is that there is the rule of how police should work. Allow me to touch on just a few of them following the legal background. Yeah? We have the non-derogable protection which falls under Article 25A of the Constitution, which says freedom from torture and cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment is absolute and cannot be limited under any circumstance, including state of emergency or order from a superior officer. So police officers, Article 25A speaks to you directly.
Of the Constitution?
Of the Constitution. That we have an underogable right. Even the Central Intelligence Agency of the America does not have torture as the official policy. CIA, which we say does the worst of the worst, doesn't have torture as the official policy. So torture, the police are directly spoken to under Article 25A. Under Article 29 of the Constitution, in the terms of the security of a person, every human being, every arrested person is guaranteed the right to freedom and security. Specifically, it protects detainees from physical harm, psychological abuse, or arbitrary violence. Again, perhaps people don't read the law. Some of them treat the law as a suggestion. We just have to remind them. Then there's the rights of an arrested person under Article 49, which mandates that detainees be held in conditions that respect human dignity. Yes, it is right there, requiring segregation of suspects from convicted prisoners and juveniles from adults. That is in Article 53, 1F. The strict 24-hour limit to present suspects in court serves as a primary safeguard against prolonged illegal holding and cell detention. Okay? Retention of human rights under Article 51. Individuals held in custody retain all fundamental rights under the Bill of Rights. All fundamental rights under the Bill of Rights, including the right to adequate health care, water and sanitation, except those that are strictly incompatible with detention. So there is that first parallel, which is this is what the law says, and this is what has to be done. But then we have this other parallel, where the police are operating in a grey area. Some of them, of course, are operating in a grey area. And let's speak specifically to these wrong elements in the police who are operating in a grey area. And they're imagining what Dennis said, mtadu, impunity. Because once a common man has no option, then the question becomes, mtadu, so a police can do to you anything because mtadu, that is impunity. Now, as they think of that, there are statutory enforcement frameworks that ensure that that mtadu is actually dealt with. So one, the commoner, the common man, is allowed to petition the High Court for compensation on particular items, especially abuse, when there's police mistreatment. I know our people do not know this. And most lawyers also are just ambulance chasing instead of helping victims of police brutality. But again, victims of police brutality are also afraid because even lawyers are murdered by these same policemen.
As we've seen.
As we've seen. Okay? So what the police are simply telling us is, you know what? Protect yourselves.
How do you protect yourself against five people in a police station?
And I will tell you how they're toying with fire. Kenya Police Service, you are toying with fire, telling people to protect themselves. The people will start disrespecting the authority of the police. The people will lose complete trust in the police. The people will start to reject going into those cells. It has happened in other countries where people just say, I'm not going. Kill me here, because anyway, you're going to kill me. And the rights of an arrested person, by the time a policeman is coming to you, he should be able to read out to you clearly why you're being arrested, what is your offense, and tell you that you have access to your what? To the police, etc., to the lawyers, etc., and representation.
Odhiambo, there is mtadu culture that does exist. But let's look at how that mtadu culture within the police service is actually bolstered from elsewhere. Because every other time you see something that is just an illegal arrest, but it's because it is orders from above. Where we've tried to look at where this above is, we're still not knowing where this above is coming from. But then again, there are the mtadu culture where you hear even the head of state say, shoot on the leg. Mtadu, if I shoot you on the leg, mtadu, you know, cabinet secretary or interior in charge of police saying, shoot, I will represent you in court. Mtadu nini, I will shoot you and still represent the police for doing an okay job, you know. There is a member of parliament who's in charge of the laws that you're talking about, on legislating on those laws, improving on the same and making sure that these laws does protect the mwananchi, the non-derogatory rights that you're talking about. It is the legislature that can change, improve on them. But what do you hear coming from that house? In fact, it is not shoot on the leg, shoot to kill, you know, mtadu. You know, the other day, Kenyans were going to the streets. There is a gentleman who actually called a police officer. I think it was an OCS. And that officer said, and I quote, "Unanipigia simu kama nani? Mnadhani nchi yenu? Fanya chenye utafanya." The mtadu culture. So when you see the precedence is set from up there, what does that do to the psyche of a police officer who has been told that amri ni kubwa kuliko yule anayepeana?
In organizational culture, in which I train extensively, we normally say that an organization is as good as its head. There are careless statements which have been made in this country, and as you have correctly stated, even by the head of state, I'm not afraid to say that. He's somebody that I have some soft spot for, but there's some things that he has said which I look at and say, this is really not correct. For example, saying shoot their legs should never come from him. Because there are people who are overzealous supporters, who some of them can do things just because he has said. The president is like, his word is like law. In fact, it's law. So once you say shoot their legs, it sends a very wrong message. And that is absolutely wrong. And that then becomes the question that who is making pronouncements on behalf of the police? Who is setting the culture? Did we have a moment in this country where the police were at least giving us some hope that there's going to be some correction from a police force to a police service? We're not talking about the police transformation. There was some hope there. But now, let's call the police for what it is, and especially in terms of the leadership of the police and the ministry. And I've said, when I was starting, that Murkomen does not inspire any hope or confidence, even amongst police officers. That is guaranteed. He doesn't. Because what does he do? What do you know what Murkomen does? Apart from say,
good question.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever invited him here to espouse what he thinks about in terms of police policies or security of persons and property in this country? I don't know. It's a failure of communication. He has some of the best communicators around him, but himself, zero. Now come to the IG, a man who I revere for his honesty. When you hear him making some statements, like for example, when there were abductions, he did say, and I chose to read in between the lines, this fellow said, this is not being done by the police. These abductions are not being done by the police. It is not in our rank and file to do this. And people said, oh, he's denying, etc. But later on we established that actually there's a parallel line that was abducting people that was not actually under his command. So he had no operation under abduction. But it was being done under the name of the police. Now, he sits at an interesting position. I know he's about to retire. And perhaps he's choosing his peace. But the reality is that the police now need to have somebody who inspires confidence and inspiration amongst them. Because there's something I call value imputation. Impute value in a thief and they will never steal. Okay? Instead of kuchapa-chapa, if you impute value in them, they will never do something wrong. But nobody is inspiring the police. These people are having a free range to do everything that they want. Because today, I think there's sometimes back where citizens were even arresting police along the streets. Yeah. And these policemen, they live with the people nowadays. They don't live in camps as Kitambo. And it is coming to a time that once it is established that, it is you who killed XYZ and you live amongst the people will come for you. They will come for you. We are just about to get there. And that's why I'm calling upon the police that, in the leadership of the police, we need to have people who are speaking sense to the police, who are inspiring and reminding them that we are a honorable career. We are a career that needs to protect the people and protect property. We must not misbehave to the extent that we lose hope. Otherwise, people will look at us as people who are having zero value, or people will look at us and they will run away instead of coming to us.
I tend to categorize murder greater than a misbehavior.
It can be a misbehavior. It's a capital offense.
It is. It's criminal. It's criminality that we are talking about here. And just for purposes of reminder, I just want to go through some of these issues that we talk about in case somebody says that, there's a lot of noise that's being made and it's being made, out of turn. Albert Ojwang died in 2025 at the Nairobi Central Police Station. Autopsy confirmed severe blunt trauma from assault inside the station cell. Officers have been charged at the moment. Brian Junge died in the Kiambu Police Station. The cell death was caused by manual strangulation. That's under an active IPOA and DCI investigation. Peter Keru died in the Kariobangi North Police Station. He died under suspicious circumstances while in custody. It's under IPOA investigation. Bernard Nyakwama Omai died at the Kibera Police Station, died while detained inside the station premises. Emmanuel Mutura and Benson Jiru, the Kianjakoma brothers, in 2021, they were arrested during COVID-19 curfew enforcement, blatant blunt force head injuries in a police vehicle. 6 officers are currently on trial. Eric Otino, at the Muthaiga police station. He was released from custody after having been severely beaten, allegedly, by officers. He died later from injuries sustained. Brian Odhiambo, in January 2025, is a Nakuru fisherman arrested by officers while fishing at Lake Nakuru, released after being severely beaten. Till today, cannot be found. Rex Masai, one of the many who was shot in the leg. That inquiry is still going on. Robert Mwangi. Shall I go on?
There's no strong deterrent.
These are all things that happened in succession. 2021, Kianjakoma brothers were killed in a vehicle while the vehicle was moving wherever it was going. Every year since then, from this, there have been deaths of individuals who died in police custody. There's no deterrent. Nobody feels as though some, granted, are under investigation. Some are on trial. But my problem is that they continue to happen. Is it that there are not enough convictions? Is it that the justice is grinding too slow? But one of these cases is one case too many. And there are too many for us to count.
I think there is need of a shift, because what we need here are two things to do. We need a deterrent, which of course exists, but they don't even fear the deterrent. And as I've mentioned to you, in their training, they're actually told that a suspect must never die in your custody. In fact, the safest place that an arrested person should be in is in the police custody. You will see in some instances where thieves are being mobbed and the police come, the suspect actually run towards the police so that the police can take custody of them. It is safer to be with the police, and actually even safer to be with the prisons rather than being outside here, because you'll be mobbed. So when these things are happening, it means that these overzealous characters within the police have to be weeded out. And how do we weed these people out? I think there is an urgent need, Dennis, to have a continuous weeding out before it happens, because these rogue characters, the OCS knows them. If you look at the National Police Service Act and standing orders, the OCS of each and every station is assigned the responsibility to take care of the well-being of the detainees within the police cells. It is there, and they know it. And the challenge is, the OCSs, most of these OCSs in these police stations, see these things because somebody, Robert Greene writes in The Concise Nature of Human Beings, he writes that people do not just do things for the first time. They will do it again. Okay? It's the nature of human beings to repeat a behavior. So before somebody is hit and bludgeoned like this one has happened, the OCSs normally have reports of rogue elements within their ranks.
Yes.
The challenge is, do they have a procedure on disciplining these people? Yes, they do. Do they proceed to discipline them? No, they don't. So what then should happen is to spread the responsibility. There's something that I think happens amongst the Muslim world, which is something I truly respect, that if you take a debt, that debt is spread across your family. If you fail to pay that debt, none of your family members will access a loan from their organizations, the private organizations that they do lending and borrowing from. That should be implemented amongst the police as well. That if one of you is rogue in the station, then that responsibility is spread across. And these are the policy adjustments which I expect to see Murkomen doing. And perhaps even IPOA. Duncan Ojuang, maybe, I don't know. I look forward to what he will do there. Okay? But there's that urgent need for the police, especially the OCS, to recognize and take disciplinary measures at the earliest happening. For example, this thing of police taking bribes, I don't know what we'll do as a country. I don't know. Maybe you know better. Me, I don't know what we'll do as a country to ensure that we stop this thing of bribe taking, number one. And number two, because there's the giver and the taker. And it has been the culture that once you're arrested, just give bribes. But we started somewhere where people were saying, we are not giving you any bribe. In fact, if you take bribe, we are arresting you. Take us to court. So I don't know what level of conscience we need in this country. And this is back to the people to first of all say, you know what? We are not going to give bribes. Because once an officer is able to take bribes, then he is not reported to the station. He gets away with it. And once he gets away with the first mistake, he will want to advance it because he's pushing the borders.
I want to take coming to the top of the hour. We continue with this conversation, of course. Odhiambo Otieno is here with us, and we're going to crack this thing. Let's see if we can find those answers by having this conversation.
The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.